Hi, writing class. I hope you all had a nice and relaxing weekend and were able to enjoy the nice weather. So welcome back to another week of digital learning. So great work last week editing and punctuating your sentences and writing detailed paragraphs. Great work also remembering to go over your 4 checks, making sure that all of your sentences are punctuated correctly, making sure you told all the important things that must have happened, making sure that there were no unclear words in your sentences, and making sure you wrote at least one sentence that named 3 or 4 things. So keep up the awesome work. For today's lesson, we're going to be looking at lesson 35, and we're going to be focusing on parts A, B, C, and D. So let's get started. So let's look at part A. So look at the 2 lines in item A. Sometimes you can combine 2 sentences with the connecting word but. So I'll read 2 sentences in the top line of item 1. So the first sentence is, the car was old, and then the next sentence is, it was in good condition. On the bottom line of item 1, so right underneath those 2 sentences, those sentences are combined with the word but. So let's read the combined sentence. The car was old, but it was in good condition. You can see how the combined sentence is punctuated. There is a comma at the end of the first sentence just before the word but. So what we have to do is fix up the rest of the sentences. But we need to remember that the comma goes before the word but. So if we look at number 2 for part A, I wrote it out here. We have the sentence, John tried to lift up the car, but it was too heavy. So what we need to do is figure out where to add our comma. Right, so remember, we just talked about that we have to put the comma right before the word but. Right, so we have the word but here. That means I have to put my comma right here. Right, so what our sentence should say is, John tried to lift up the car, comma, but it was too heavy. So now what I want you guys to do is to remember that rule that we just talked about and do number 3, 4, and 5. So once again, you have to put in the comma right before the word but. So you can pause the video now, and then I'll see you in part B. So welcome to back. So we're gonna be focusing on part B. So part B, the title of this section is Starting a New Paragraph When a New Person Speaks. So remember, we're going to put the letter P in front of each sentence that should start a new paragraph. Each time a new person speaks in a paragraph, we have to start a new paragraph. So when somebody else speaks, you must start a new paragraph. So we have to read the passage and put the letter P in front of each sentence that should begin a new paragraph. So I'll read the first paragraph to you and we'll do it together. And then I want you to focus and try doing the second paragraph on your own. So in our first paragraph, the first sentence says, a mouse was running away from a cat as fast as it could. Right? We don't have anybody speaking yet, so we can continue. As the mouse ran, it yelled, help, help. So now we have the mouse speaking. So all of the rest of the sentences, if they don't have the mouse speaking, we need to start a new sentence, a new paragraph and indent. So the cat was getting closer and closer. Right? Nobody else is speaking, so we can continue. There was nowhere for the poor mouse to hide. The only thing in sight was a big turtle. Mr. Turtle, please save me from this cat, the mouse shouted. So it's still just the mouse speaking, so we don't have to start a new paragraph. The next sentence says, you can crawl inside my shell, the turtle said. So for that sentence, now we have not the mouse speaking, but instead we have the turtle speaking. So in front of that sentence, you can crawl inside my shell, we need to put the letter P because we need to start a new paragraph. The cat can't hurt you in there. So right, that sentence, the one right after what we read where the turtle was speaking, is still the turtle. So we don't need to start a new paragraph. So the mouse jumped into the turtle's shell. So we just read the first paragraph, right? So we had the mouse speaking, now we have the turtle speaking. So we had to indent one time. In the second paragraph, remember you're going to have to put the letter P In front of each sentence, that should start a new paragraph, which means anytime a new person speaks, you're going to have to start a new paragraph. I'll give you a hint. You should start a new paragraph 3 times. So you can pause the video now, and then I'll see you in part C. So welcome back to part C. In each item, a person says 2 things. What we need to do is put in the missing punctuation. So let's write this sentence out. For number 1, the sentence is, "Can I stay up late?" Tim asked his mother. "I have a lot of homework to do." So if we look at the first sentence, right, we have 2 different things that Tim said. So we're going to have 2 sets of quotation marks. So I'm going to write exactly what it says in your book, and then you guys can help me edit it and make sure we have our proper punctuation and our quotation marks. Can I stay up late? Tim asked his mother. I have a lot of homework to do. Perfect. So I'm going to use a different color, and you're going to put in our quotation marks and our punctuation. Right? So, can I stay up late? Tim asked his mother. I have a lot of homework to do. So in our first sentence, let's find the exact words that Tim said. Right? Can I stay up late? So around those words, I'm going to put in my quotation marks. So now we have to figure out, do we need a comma if it's a statement, or if it's a question, I have to add my question mark. Right? If we look at the next word, Tim asked, we know that this is a question. So instead of my comma, right before my closing quotation mark, I have to put my question mark, just like that. So now our first sentence is punctuated. I have my quotation marks. Can I stay up late? Since it's a question, I have my question mark. My closing quotation marks. Tim asked his mother. And now in the second sentence that Tim said, we also have to put our quotation marks. Right? I have a lot of homework to do. So this whole sentence, the second sentence, are exact words that Tim said. So I'm going to put in my quotation marks right around that sentence. Right? I don't need to add my comma. It's not a question, so I don't need a question mark. So all I have to do now is add a period right before my closing quotation mark. So now I have the sentence, quotation mark, I have a lot of homework to do, period, and then my closing quotation mark. So now both of my sentences are punctuated correctly, and they have my quotation marks added in. So you can pause the video now, and then for number 2, 3, and 4, once again, you're going to have to put in your missing quotation marks. If it's a question, you'll have to put in your question mark. If it's a statement, instead of the question mark, you'll put a comma. And then if the sentence is at the end and it's not a question, you're going to have to add a period. So pause the video now, finish up part C, and then I'll see you in part D, which will be our last part for today's video. So for part D, it tells us that you're going to write each sentence so it begins with a word that tells where. So you've already learned to rewrite sentences that tell when. Sentences that tell where will work the same way. You find the part that tells where, and you move it to the beginning of the sentence. So let's look at sentence number 1. The road got bumpy near the river. So the part that tells where is near the river. So now let's say the sentence so it begins with those words, right? Near the river, the road got bumpy. But what we need to remember is after the part that tells where, we need to add in our comma. So for part D, I'll do the first one. We'll do it together. So the sentence, the way it's written for you guys, is the road got bumpy near the river. So the part that is underlined near the river is the part that tells where. So in the instructions, it tells us to begin our sentence with the part that tells where. So I'm going to start with near the river. Need to make sure to capitalize the N because now it's at the beginning of my sentence. Near the river, the road got bumpy. Right, so now we've rewritten. This is the part that tells where. That was at the end of the sentence. Now I put it at the beginning of the sentence. Near the river, the road got bumpy. I'm almost done. The one thing I forgot to add is after the part that tells where, I need to make sure to add my comma. So right here, I'm going to add my comma. So now what I want you guys to do is for sentence number 2 and 3, the part that is underlined, move that to the beginning of your sentence, then add your comma, and then write the rest of the sentence, just like we did together. So great job, guys, and I'll see you in our next lesson. Bye.